In this video, we're going to be reviewing combining integers using a number line. But first, before we start to combine the integers, we must understand how a number line works. When you're working with a number line, you're always starting at 0, at the origin. Now, whenever you're combining integers, you have positive and negative signs, and they act kind of like a map guide. If the number is positive, it's asking you to move to the right on a number line. If the number is negative, it's asking you to move to the left on a number line. Whenever you're combining two integers or showing movement of combining two integers on a number line, you have two levels to your number line. The first level is representing the first integer or the first number in the problem, and then the second level here is showing the second number or the second integer in the problem. Where that second level ends is where you find your answer. So for this example, let's represent this number line movement using integers to show which two integers I combine to find my answer here. My first level is starting from the point 0, and it's moving right 2 spaces. And I know that this is my first number, again, because you always start at 0 for the first number. So I'm moving to the right 2 spaces. If I'm moving to the right, that must mean that this first number is a positive number. And since I moved 2 spaces, my first number is a positive 2. Now from that positive 2, I came up here to my second level to show my second integer. Now for this number, I went from this spot here where I ended from the first level, and I moved 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 spaces to the left. Now if I moved to the left for this second number, then that must mean that my second integer is actually a -6 because I moved to the left 6 spots. So what I really combined here was I combined a positive 2 with a -6. Now if I box that number out with a sign in front of it, it shows that I did in fact put a positive 2 and a -6 together here. And again, the answer to my number sentence here is found at the very end of the second level. This second level here ended at a -4. So that must mean that a positive 2 combined with a -6 is a -4. Now I could also write this a different way, write the expression. I could show this expression as being 2, and my plus sign here means the word combined with, and then in parentheses I'm going to put a -6. So if I boxed out the number with the signs in front, I've got 2 combined with a -6. If you recall, whenever we were verbally representing these numbers, sometimes you have a plus sign out in front of a number, sometimes you don't. If you don't have that plus sign out in front of a number, or you don't have any sign out in front of a number, it's understood to be positive. This plus sign kind of goes along with the same thing. It's just showing that you're combining these two numbers. It doesn't really mean much here in this problem. So you're combining 2 with a -6. And that's also a -4 because this first number means move to the right 2 spaces, and then the second number, the -6, means move to the left 6 spaces, and that still takes me to that -4. So one of the most important parts in combining integers, whether you're combining them using colored chips or whether you're combining them using a number line or whether you're just combining them using an algorithm or a rule to memorize, you always must circle or box the number out with a sign in front, and that's going to tell you whether that number is positive or negative. So let's start with my first example here in my list of problems. First step, box out the number with the sign in front of it. That tells me here that I'm combining 5 with a -7. So if I've got 5 combined with a -7, on my number line, it's telling me to move right 5 spaces. And then from that point, it says move to the left 7 spaces, because again, negative means move to the left. So after I moved up 5 spaces and then I moved back 7 spaces, It took me to a negative 2. So that must mean that a positive 5 combined with a negative 7, which could also be written as 5 combined with a negative 7. Both of these expressions is equal to a negative 2. For my next problem, my very first step, box out the number with the sign in front of it, and that's going to tell you what numbers you're combining. Here I'm combining a negative 6 with a negative 1. So negative 6 combined with a negative 1 tells me to move left 6 spaces for the first number because it's negative, and then it tells me for the second number to move left another 1 space. So if I move left 6 spaces and then move left another 1 space, that takes me to a negative 7. My next example, box out the number with the sign in front. That's going to tell you whether your number is positive or negative. Here I'm combining a negative 4 with a positive 2. So on a number line that says moved left 4 spaces and then moved to the right 2 spaces. And that takes me to a negative 2. So a negative 4 combined with a positive 2 is equal to negative 2. Got a few more examples here. Very first step here is to box out the number with the sign in front. This tells me that I'm combining a negative 3 with a negative 4. So negative 3 combined with negative 4 tells me to, from 0, move left 3, and then from that point, move left another 4, which takes me to a negative 7. I could also rewrite this expression like this. In this case, if I box out the number with the sign in front, I'm still combining a negative 3 with a negative 4. Both of these expressions are equal to negative 7. Next problem, box out the number with the sign in front. This problem states negative 2 combined with a negative 5. So from 0, move left 2 and then left another 5, which takes me to a negative 7. So I could rewrite this as well, just to show the different ways of expressing this expression. This shows that I've got negative 2 combined with a negative 5 as well. So if I'm moving left 2 and then left another 5, it's going to take me to a negative 7 on a number line. Next expression, boxing them out, I've got a positive 7 combined with a negative 3. So that tells me move right 7, and then from that point move left 3 spaces, which is going to take me to a positive 4. So this expression is equal to a positive 4. A few more problems. In this problem, I've got a positive 1 combined with a negative 3. On a number line, that tells me to move right 1 and then left 3 spaces, 1, 2, 3, which takes me to a negative 2. Therefore, positive 1 combined with a negative 3 is equal to a negative 2. For these last two problems, I'm going to start it out the same way. I'm going to box out the number with the sign in front of it, and then I'm going to verbally read these problems. So what I'm showing here is a positive 2 combined with the opposite of a negative 3. Remember, we went over verbally expressing integers, and we said that this type of expression here means the opposite of a negative 3. And the opposite of a negative 3 on a number line would be 3 steps going the opposite direction. So if negative 3 says move left 3 spaces, 1, 2, 3, then the opposite of that would be moving right 3 spaces, 1, 2, 3, which takes me to a positive 3. The opposite of a negative number would be its positive counterpart. So what I've got here is really 2 combined with a positive 3. If you were thinking chips, a negative 3 would be 3 red chips. I don't want a negative 3. I want the opposite of 3 red chips. And the opposite of 3 red chips would be 3 yellow chips. And the yellow chips would represent positive numbers, so it would be a 2 plus 3, or 2 combined with a positive 3. So boxing out the number with the sign in front, this tells me to move right 2 spaces, and then from that point you're going to move 3 spaces. Now last time I checked, 2 plus 3 equaled 5. I'm going to show you a trick that my 7th grade math teacher taught me whenever I was going through school. Whenever you see 2 negative signs back to back here without any numbers in between, it does mean the opposite of a negative 3, which is also a positive 3. You can connect the dots here and make a big plus sign out of those 2 negative signs. So I could rewrite that by just joining those signs there and making a plus sign. Let's move on to the last example. We're combining here negative 1 with the opposite of a negative 6. And the opposite of a negative 6 would be a positive 6. So I'm going to rewrite this. I'm combining negative 1 here, not with the opposite of a negative 6. Well, it would mean the same thing. But the opposite of a negative 6 is a positive 6. Again, if you were thinking of colored chips, negative 6 would be 6 red chips. I don't want a negative 6. I want the opposite of 6 red chips. And the opposite of 6 red chips would be 6 yellow chips, or 6 positives. So what I'm really combining here is a negative 1 with a positive 6. So on a number line, that tells me to move left 1 and then right 6, which is going to take me to a positive 5. So either of these expressions, negative 1 minus a negative 6, or you could read it as negative 1 combined with the opposite of a negative 6, or last but not least, negative 1 combined with a positive 6. It's all going to equal 5, because this expression is the same thing as this expression. It just looks a little different. If you have any questions whatsoever about combining integers, make sure to stop by a morning tutoring session with questions ready to ask.